Shalom, shalom, shalom. Oh, yes, it's working now. All praises be to the Most High. Let's go. Let's go. Uh-huh. Come on in before I segue into Patreon. Blessings. The 12 tribes of Israel. Come on. There it is. Thank you, AC. We went through the Euphrates. I'm about to get a book. 1 second. That's right, brothers and sisters. The Most High's gather in Israel. I'm the elder of the Gathering of Christ Church, Elder Ricard Shiar, here live with your weekly before Sabbath Patreon update. Of course, we're going to do a quick update, then segue over to Patreon. Okay, for loyal Patreon members, we have something good for you today. Make sure if you're not a member, we kept the price very minimum. You go to Patreon.com/AGathering144 to become a part of our Patreon family. If you wish to do that, you can sign up as soon as possible because you really don't want to miss these particular updates. Not only do we do updates on Friday, okay? We also answer questions and try to have phone calls in which you can talk to us personally and let ask us what's going on, or friendly conversation, or you may have biblical questions you need answered. So we do that on Patreon every Friday. So if this interests you, please make sure that you go to Patreon.com/AGathering144. Now, real quick, before I dive into, I'm getting texts all over the place and all that. Before I dive into what we'll be discussing today, right? Before I dive in, I hope you all can hear me clearly. Before I dive into our discussion today, right? Let me first say all thanks to the Most High, Ahaya Bashim Yeshaya Wabarwa, the Most High God of Israel. In the name of Christ, we thank him for all the blessings he has bestowed upon the church. And we pray that he keep you all hedged in Christ's name through these troubled times. All right. Let me say this. Of course, before I go in, we have some good news. A brother called me in from Ohio today and stated that a sister was following the church over there in Ohio. She's been a fervent listener online for years. Her husband, was, is a devout, and she is also devout Christians. And the wife was listening for a while. And at first, he had some level of skepticism, especially with the optics or the view of Israelites and how they promote radicalism and all these others when they tend to speak about Israelites mainstream. So, of course, his example was those who scream and curse people out, or whatever the case might be. But at one point, he began to listen with his wife and understood that there was something different, right? That you don't have to be radical to become an Israelite, and understand that Christ was an Israelite. He began to follow our lessons and realize that this is the gospel lost. Okay? And the good news that comes from this is out of nowhere, right? Out of nowhere, his old church home called him and asked him, can he become pastor over his old home, over the old church he left. Him and his wife left the church and began to follow our church. And out of nowhere, the people called him and asked, could he become pastor over that church, understanding the doctrine that he received under this church. Man, is the Most High doing something wonderful. Out of nowhere, he received a phone call. And now, I'm going to talk to him and discuss the transitions, because this is happening more often, brothers and sisters, than you think. Our people are coming back to the Most High. And right now in the end days, the Most High is setting up good shepherds, those who are not attached to the prosperity movement. I believe the community churches was lost through mega churches. And now and the only way to survive is to become community based. It seems as if all of these mega churches took out the upward mobile people in our congregations who are financially stable. Okay. And guess what? The Bible says money is a defense. If all the, I would say, the prestigious professionals in any church leave the church and join that fraternity called mega churches, then where are the role models within our community to look forward to within the churches like we had growing up in Christian church? So I don't want to stay too long on this. I thank the Most High for this. And I'm looking forward to see where that goes, right? And of course, when it all happens, I want to travel over there and talk to the people, wherever the case is. But, it's always good in the midst of all this negative that's out here to hear good news, right? It's always good to hear news like this going into my Sabbath, right? So also, we have some give outs that I'll be announcing this coming Sunday in the Hebrew and Bible Academy. 2 blessed winners of these books that Elder Lawyer and I will sign ourselves. Yep, KJV, Holy Bible with Apocrypha, Nelson Column reference, Old and New Testament, okay? So we're going to send these out, and I'm going to announce the blessed 2 winners in the Academy this coming Sunday before the lesson begins. Thank you for all your support, and please use this tool skillfully. Use this tool skillfully. All right. And if you're interested in coming into the Hebrew and Bible Academy, there's still time. You can come in. Any lessons you've missed, we'll make sure we give you the past lessons. We're going into, I think, week 6. Week 6 to week 7. One of those, the time is flying, right? So make sure you go to historytimes.org to enroll. There's nothing like it in the earth. Real-time news, ancient Hebrew, and lessons that are out of this world. Be a part of this. Come to historytimes.org to enroll. And since I'm talking about that, let me let you know that we'll be going into, this is Men Week. That's right. This is the week for the men. That's right. A man's true purpose according to God will be our topic. Straight wisdom. Wisdom scriptures that none of us received in captivity on what the Most High expects from us as men, from the cradle to the grave. Once that foundation has been established, believe it or not, all the other things that the other goals we seek to accomplish in this world becomes simpler. Okay? That means we are blessed in this world, right? But yet we use what's in this world, but what? But it's not consumed by it. The Most High, when you build that foundation right, the Most High puts exactly what's needed on the path. Therefore, there's no chasing anything, believing that, okay, let me do this first, then I'll go serve the Most High at the end of our lives. That's not how our forefathers did it. There's a way to build your foundation simultaneously while getting what you need in this world for your family. Okay? Using the wisdom of our patriarchs. Of who? Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and we will show this as an example this coming Sunday. Straight wisdom scriptures, okay? People go into the 48 laws of power and all that, and guess what? A lot of that ecclesiastical type of information comes from the Bible outside of the negative deceit. Suppose you had that same wisdom on the next level. Well, brothers, we're going to give it to you this Sunday. And then next week, week 7, will be the women week. It'll be for the women. Okay. Men week this week, the sisters week next week, right? It's going to be a great, great academy. Focusing on what? Spiritual growth. We're going to also have a lesson on fasting and praying, how to connect. How did the disciples connect? Christ. How did the prophets connect? Okay. What was the connection on the local level when it comes to Israelites who weren't prophets? That and more. How to fast and pray will be a key component, a key lesson in this particular academy. And I hope you all are a part of it. Okay. Go to historytimes.org to enroll. Now, let me show you what we'll be diving into on Patreon, right? And I'm going to open up the calls, 515-605-9327. No sooner as I segue over to Patreon. And this is what we'll be diving into, right? 1 second. We're going to go into the historical discussion of anti-Shemitism, right? Anti-Shemitism. Now, the reason why I framed it anti-Shemitism, because being a Semite or from Shem, right? A Semite is really a mispronunciation or mispronouncing Shem. They're saying Sem instead of Shem, which means it denotes one from the lineage of Noah's son, Shem. So when we hear anti-Semites in our community or within the United States or the world abroad, usually it's a definition of being what? Showing some level of hate towards European Jewish people, right? Now, I can't speak to how they define what anti-Semitism is, okay? But I do invite them on, their rabbis or their teachers, whether you be a Messianic Jew or an Orthodox Jew, you're more than welcome to come in and explain your understanding or definition of what that is, you know, if it's outside of what we're claiming anti-Semitism is, okay? You have one definition, but we're looking at it as not strictly through someone's religion, but from the lineages of Shem, okay? Semite, Shemite. Arabs are what? They're from the seed of Ishmael. They're Shemites, okay? We're claiming to be the children of Israel, okay? We're from Jacob, which would make us Shemites. Even white people. White people are Edomites, according to the Bible, or so-called white people. There's no such thing as black or white when you look at, you know, the spectrum of colors, the different colors out there. But all in all, European white people are, and it's a marker for them, red, right, are Shemites also. They're also from Isaac, which makes them Shemites, right? But when we hear the term anti-Semite, right, we usually think of Jewish people. And okay, they framed it. That's what it is. I don't deny their view of what that particular word means to them. Okay, I'm not downplaying that. It's what they use. But here's the issue that we have before I go into what we'll be talking about. It seemed to be a conflict or some level of confusion when it comes to when someone is actually violating under those terms, right? Seems to be a conflict. Like, what is it? Is it political? Is it religious? Like, if I disagree with your political views, does that make me anti-Semitic? Right? If I believe that you're doing something unjust, if I believe that someone who may be of your ethnicity is doing something wrong and I call you out for it, is that allowed? I'm just asking questions, right? And if not, why is there preferential treatment there in comparison to any other people in the earth, where there's good and bad in all people? I can't in good faith believe that everyone of any ethnicity is good, right? Or any religion is good, right? Because there's nothing to stop someone from harming others and then hide behind their people and say, don't attack me because you are showing hate. Well, how do we distinguish if everyone is covered politically as a group? So I believe we need to tear down all these lines, be it racism, anti-Semitism, and all these other isms, and put that to the side and judge each person off of their own what? Individual merit. Therefore, an evil person cannot hide behind another person or another group. Okay? I'm just going to put that out there. That's my my quick monologue, if you will, right? But I'm gonna leave that there, right? And the conflict is we don't know if it's religious or political. In Christian church, I was told to support Israel or the Jewish people based on them being the characters or the people written in the Bible, and automatically those people should garner sympathy or support as God's people. That was the theology. That's what I was taught. Okay. Now, I find with my own historical studies that theologically that doesn't line up with what the Bible says or what I believe. Okay. Now, they have the right to believe that if they would like to. If they would like to discuss it in more detail, I'm more than happy to open up our platform here to come to some level of consensus. I have no issue in a country where there's freedom of religion with someone claiming to be anything or anybody they would like to be. Okay. But still, we should have the discussion, because why? If you're coming into the Christian church and saying we should support a people, right? That we should support a people because they are the characters or the people of the Bible. Now we're going into theology now. That means we're going into preferential treatment. That means we're looking at other people above our own interest. Okay. And if that's the case, I'm willing to have that conversation. And if it's true, I'm willing to follow suit. But I find that theological point of claiming that one people are the people that we see today, I find that's just a religious discussion. And it's being conflicted with the religious discussion and the political discussion. It's intertwining and confusing. Right? Right? So here it is. I agree. Listen to what I agree with. I agree with anyone trying to make a claim or stating that there are certain type of people. You have the right to do that. Okay. But we have the right to not view you that way if it's against our theology religiously. Okay. And it seems conflicting the two has caused an air of confusion out there concerning how do we exactly come to a consensus, right? How do we come to a consensus without offending? When it's the religious thing, the political thing, right? But I digress. Maybe one of these videos I'm going to show can clear it up, right? Let me show you what I'm talking about. But before I go to the video, let me show you what we'll be unpacking today. And you notice I'm carefully trying to talk around the conversation, right? And I believe that's what's wrong when it comes to political correctness and making it where people can't have an honest conversation concerning any group of people. I think that's wrong. I think everyone should have the right to state what they think about a particular group, even if the other group doesn't agree with it. I truly believe that. Why? Because that leads to an honest conversation. And if the person is wrong, you can prove them wrong on or at the public square. See? You have nothing to hide when you are what? When you have the moral high ground and truth behind you. When you have the moral high ground and the truth behind you, there's nothing to hide. Guess what? You'll welcome the conversation with someone hating you or someone's feeling something negative about you. You'll welcome that to do what? To show how ridiculous they are. But it seems as if they're quelling the conversation. They're looking to quell dissent and want to make it where what? Everything is political correctness, which is destroying this world. Dialogue leads to solution. We don't have the luxury as a people. We don't have the luxury of a people, folks, to shut people down when they're disrespecting, dishonoring, and hating on us. We have to deal with it. You know what? And I don't mind it because I believe that's what makes us stronger. I don't believe it's right hiding behind racism or any other ism. I don't believe it's right. As far as I'm concerned, I'm open for the challenge like Christ was. I'm open for the challenge. I don't want to be protected politically and otherwise. I want the dialogue. Right? But this is where we're going right now. I'm going to talk about this today. This is from the Jerusalem Post. The Nation of Islam's leader, Farrakhan, sues the ADL and the SWC for anti-Semitism accusations. Okay? I went straight to the Israeli circulation, the Jerusalem Post. As you can see, it's not my opinion. It's being reported not just in the United States or the Western world. It's being reported all over the world that Farrakhan is suing the ADL and others. And he claims that he's suing for First Amendment violations. That means the freedom of speech. And for defamation. This is what he's claiming. And he's seeking $4.8 billion in compensation. Okay? Now, let's talk about it for a moment. Let's talk about it for a moment here. 1 second, because all this clothing and stuff is popping up. 1 moment here. 1 second here. Let's see, 515. Let's do it this way. Now, as we can see, Savior's Day. See, and I think they do a lot of that stuff on purpose, folks. When I'm pulling stuff up, they pull things to try to move things some other place, right? Savior's Day. Louis Farrakhan, a minister for the Nation of Islam, has announced his intentions to sue the Anti-Defamation League, ADL's CEO Jonathan Greenblatt. Okay, he's Jewish. Simon Wiesenthal Center, another person who's Jewish, and the SWC director Abraham Cooper, right? In a post made on the Nation of Islam's website last week. Farrakhan claims that he is suing the above parties for First Amendment violations and defamation. Farrakhan is seeking $4.8 billion in compensation alongside his fees associated with his lawsuit. The First Amendment provides that Congress make no law respecting, let me see here 1 second, it just jumped all over the place. Let me see. Yeah. It says, let me go down here. The First Amendment provides that the Congress makes no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting its free exercise, according to the White House. It protects freedom of speech, the press, assembly, and the right to petition the government for a redress of grievances. The website claims that for over 40 years, the defendants have falsely labeled Minister Farrakhan and the Nation of Islam anti-Semites, and as anti-Semitic because of a difference in theological viewpoints, and for his pointing out misbehavior of some members of the Jewish community, among other things, right? The false labeling has hindered Minister Farrakhan in his mission, which is to deliver the truth taught by the most honorable Elijah Muhammad that will correct the condition of spiritual, mental, and moral death of the black man and woman of America that came as a result of 310 years of chattel slavery and over 150 years of oppression and suppression thereafter. Now, that's open for debate and discussion also. That was Elijah Muhammad views, but I don't believe that this is the religion that will save the black man. Okay, I believe that that religion, indirectly, not intentionally, have become a Trojan horse so that the Arabs can now come into our community and exploit us more, even more, due to the recognition and growth of Islam within our communities. I believe it, initially some of those things on the surface benefited our people. But on the other hand, it became a Trojan horse when now Arabs can now align themselves with Elijah Muhammad views and set up mosques in our community to further erode and actually siphon finances out of the community with their religion from the Middle East. But I digress. Minister Farrakhan and the Nation of Islam, in bringing this action, are keenly aware that good law-abiding citizens are likewise victims of mischaracterizations, including the late Nelson Mandela, President Jimmy Carter, Reverend Jesse Jackson, Bishop, whatever the case might be, right? So in a nutshell, as you can see, Farrakhan is suing the ADL. Now, what is my opinion on that? I think he has the right to do so, okay? Because he made a distinction when it came to those that he felt who was, that I believe as an American, he have a right, he has a right of freedom of speech. Okay. Now, he have a right to the freedom of speech, and they have the right to refute him where? On the public square. Okay. And that's the beauty of what they call America. Okay. If someone is saying something wrong, you have the right, to redress. You have the right to actually bring your cause to prove what someone is saying is incorrect. Now, on that part, he has the right to at least seek some level of justice. Okay. I've seen him make distinctions and say, well, listen, not all Jews or whatever the case is. And he made some statements that he even had a family member. I think his father is someone else who may be Jewish or whatever the case is. He made those statements. So I'm not here to speak specifically on that, but I'm going to keep my eye on this and see how it goes, see where it is, right? Because someone does have the right to express their religious views if it's rooted in truth, all right? If it's rooted in truth and isn't harming anyone, right? Now, let me state this, right? And I can understand what they're saying on the other side of things, right? They're afraid that if hatred get out there, people become radicalized, and then next thing you know, you have another Nazi ideology or people, trying to come against them like it happened over in Germany, right? That's some of the views I've heard. My point about it is I see what's going on in Palestine right now, right? I see what's going on. I'm not on either side of it. But this is what I would state. Based on what's being reported historically, when it comes to what the Germans did to the Jews, I would have expected to see what I'm seeing in Palestine to some degree happen to Germany. Okay, to some degree. If it comes to quelling a grassroots hatred that came from a specific political machine that had the finances, ingenuity, and science to wipe out a people, I would have expected to some degree, and I would have understood to some degree. I would have understood if what I'm seeing in that war with Palestine would have first happened to those Germans. And that, I'm talking about from the political side, not the religious side, just the political side. And because I believe that they would have been justified in doing exactly what they needed to do with some people politically, with a military and all that, seeking to wipe out a people. On the political side, I would have understood it. I'm scratching my head because it seems as if it moved to the Middle East. When I looking at it from the outside, no religion, no nothing, I would have understood if what's happening in Palestine right now, if they would have done that to the Germans, right? I would have understood it, especially looking at Schindler's List and all that. I'd have been like, you know what? If these Germans are doing that to you, hey, protect yourself and take care of your business. What I don't want is to have something that happened between some other people affect our people. I believe that's wrong. I believe that's wrong politically and religiously. We had no hand in harming no people. We had no hand in harming white people. We had no hand in harming Jewish people. We have our own burdens to carry since chattel slavery. We have our own issues unresolved by all people who have destroyed our people, who I believe, according to the Bible, are the lost tribes of Israel. Okay? So let me make a statement there, right? Let me just put it there, right? Now, the anti-Semitism question came up and was posed to Malcolm around, in the early 60s, right? And I want to see how Malcolm handled this question concerning, is he an anti-Semite? Fair use. Hold on, let me get it here. One second. Here it is here. All right. The Bible. Let me blow it up here so y'all can see it. The late Malcolm X from the Philadelphia Archives. He was on radio right here in Philadelphia, right?
Are you anti-Semitic?
Anti-Semitic?
You've many of the things that I've read about you, and you've made a mention a couple of times about the Jews and everything, and I'm wondering if you are personally anti-Semitic.
No. How can I be anti-Semitic when the Arabs are half the Muslim world is Semitic? If I was anti-Semitic, I'd be anti-Arab and anti-everything else. No, I think that in this country, there's one mistake that the Jews make. They put themselves in a position where whenever anybody gives an objective analysis of the role that they play, they defend themselves by accusing you of being anti-Semitic. And a Negro is not anti-Semitic when he says that the man who's exploiting him in his community is white, because it is a white man who owns all the stores. Now, is it an accident that these whites who own these stores are Jewish? If it's an accident, then the fact that he says the Jew on the corner is exploiting me isn't an anti-Semitic statement. It's just more descriptive of the man who's exploiting him.
Now, that was Malcolm's take on it, right? So he was asked a question and he stated, well, listen, I'm under an Arab religion, and they're Shemites, so I can't be anti-Semitic because they are from Shem also, right? And that what he's saying is if someone is exploiting our people, we should be able to point it out without the name calling. And from that perspective, I understand it. If some people are exploiting our people or harming our people, the conversation should be had without us hiding behind and, hiding behind what I would call a political correct word. Hiding behind a wall that'll protect one who's actually harming others. I believe that someone should be able to call someone out, right? Again, should never be violence or seeking to harm anyone individually. But if someone is harming your people, you should be able to state, okay, you're harming my people, all right? Now, that was Malcolm's take on it. Let's hear that once more. Let's hear it again. I'm going to let it play all the way through. Because I believe this couple of seconds, he summed it up in a couple of months. He summed it up, quite efficient how he handled that, right? Let's hear it once more. Let's hear it once more. One second.
Are you anti-Semitic?
Anti-Semitic?
You've many of the things that I've read about you, and you've made a mention a couple of times about the Jews and everything, and I'm wondering if you are personally anti-Semitic.
No. How can I be anti-Semitic when the Arabs are half the Muslim world is Semitic? If I was anti-Semitic, I'd be anti-Arab and anti-everything else. No, I think that in this country, there's one mistake that the Jews make. They put themselves in a position where whenever anybody gives an objective analysis of the role that they play, they defend themselves by accusing you of being anti-Semitic. And a Negro is not anti-Semitic when he says that the man who's exploiting him in his community is white, because it is a white man who owns all the stores. Now, is it an accident that these whites who own these stores are Jewish? If it's an accident, then the fact that he says the Jew on the corner is exploiting me isn't an anti-Semitic statement. It's just more descriptive of the man who's exploiting him.
Now, this is where I have an issue, right? This is where I have an issue. Why? Because for almost for the last decade, right, I believe that there's some political steam behind making sure there's some type of restitution given to the children of Israel, in particular, the black man, Judah, in America, who actually helped build the country. Slave labor was paid nothing. At the same time, our families were separated. Our children were taken from us. And the only hope we had was in God, that one day that he would deliver us from such oppression as was done in ancient times when the Most High God delivered us out of the hands of Pharaoh. Seems as if the last 10 years, politically, our people have been speaking towards righteous retribution and saying, well, listen, we've helped all other people, even when it came to World War I, World War II, right? We know about the heroics of black men going into the concentration camps and saving Jewish people, right? I mean, I've seen that narrative. I've read that narrative of how our circumstances align when it comes to some level of oppression, when it comes to being oppressed by others, right? We've always gone hard for other people, sacrificing our own lives for other people. And for the last couple of years, what I'm hearing is our people are saying, well, no more our people going hard for black and brown people and all that. We're done with it. We're done with it. It's time for you to face, it doesn't matter who you are. It's time to face the music. It's time to what? Own your hand in the oppression of God's people. And what I'm talking about is pre-World War I, World War II. Before Hitler was born. Before Germany became a superpower and Nazism, which is a cult in of itself, became a disease that's affecting our people. Why? Because according to Project Paperclip, a lot of Hitler's scientists sought refuge in the United States, and a lot of eugenics programs that are attacking our people came from those particular scientists in Germany. See? So we've been ostracized, destroyed, dealt with wrongfully, while helping other people stay above us. Without any help. The only help we have is hope in our God that he would one day save us from this evil conspiracy to keep God's people from ever coming into our promise. And for the first time in Americans' history, our people are speaking the same thing and saying, well, listen, we're not down with this black or brown or yellow coalition. It's about the children of Israel, the lost tribes of Israel. And it's about time we have the conversation. And it's about time y'all start thinking about letting our people go. Do what's right, like Pharaoh did. He broke the children of Israel off, realizing that country wouldn't have been anything, wouldn't have become anything politically if it wasn't for our family, Joseph and the 12 tribes, Jacob and our knowledge and our unified understanding of our God, helping the Mesopotamian area through a 7-year famine. It was our politics and storing things that consolidated power for Egypt. Now, the Egyptians called Joseph Imhotep. He was a Shemite. He was our brother. And we ignore the lies they have out there showing Joseph had red hair. That's a lie. That's a cover-up. He was a black man. He was a black man. Imhotep, Joseph. We saved this world. And guess what? By doing so, all the kings in the Mesopotamian area did what? They brought all your riches into their riches into Egypt, and Egypt at that point became a superpower. And that's how Egypt became above all countries within the Mesopotamian area. And I got the truth. I had the proof. Even on papyrus papers, it breaks down listen to me clearly, it breaks down every plague in order on the papyrus papers that I've gotten from the British Museum. So Pharaoh knew, and it wasn't Ramesses. That's another lie. We were never under captivity under Ramesses. That's another lie to try to throw the history off concerning our people being in Egypt. Okay. What did the Pharaoh do? Politically, they all came together and gave our people what we deserve for making Egypt a superpower. We left out of Egypt with many resources. Because and guess what? Those resources were well deserved. It was our people under a promise through God that we built that country. And it was told our father Abram that we would leave out with much substance. From the time of the promise, when the Most High gave the promise to Abraham, to the time that Moses would lead us out of Egypt was 430 years. From the time of the promise until the Exodus. And we left out with much substance. For the first time in Americans' history, our people are talking right. We're talking right and realizing that we are the people suffering on the bottom. Why? Because we're the children of Israel. And guess what? The Gentile nations, the heathen nations have received their riches through our power getting diminished, like it's read of in Romans, the 11th chapter. So we don't want to be aligned with no black or brown people. We don't want to be aligned with anyone else's political cause. We're done with it already. The recognition is that we're from the lost tribes of Israel, and we're willing to take this argument to the public square on any media circulation and prove our history to be true. Here's a book right here. If we're going to talk about Germany, we need to set the record straight about Germany. Here's a rabbi right here. Rabbi Yahya Davidi lives in Israel. And he breaks down the fact that the Edomite powers would spring out of Germany. That these Germans over there with that Nazi ideology were Edomites. The nemesis of our people, who would work with their science, eugenics, their false history to try to totally eradicate the name of Israel out of existence through your false historical records. You would circumvent our Christian churches, take over the Christian churches, and eventually do what? Speaking of the German satanic ideology, you would begin to push debauchery as allowed in Christian churches, the same debauchery that you wouldn't allow to be taught in your religious institutions, to destroy us from the ground up. But you, guess what? You counted out the God of Israel. So let me tell you, and I'm going to set the record straight. Don't try to align our people with some type of Nazi ideology. That happened over there. We could care less about what's going on over there politically. Our people are suffering here. And I see where they're going with this. For the first time, our people are talking right. It's like, nah, we built the country. We don't hear about no black and brown stuff. We don't want to hear about that garbage no more. Okay? We don't want you to align us with white women as a minority. We don't want you to align us with the letter people as a minority. We don't want you to align us with East Indians or Asian people as black and brown people. We're tired of it already. No more political gymnastics. Tell the truth. And now what they're trying to do. They're trying to pull us into this argument as if we have a side with the conflict in the Middle East when our people are suffering here, not just in America, but throughout the earth. Africa has been turned into a third world country, which was once a paradise, an extension of our land, Israel, after we fled from you devils. We fled from you in 70 AD, and now you've still pushed policy to keep Africa third world, to put these labels on our country as if we're the home of disease, to stunt travel. See? To stunt international commerce and trade. If you can make the world believe that we're Ebola, that we're AIDS, that we're malaria, by doing so, you put a label that stunts us from ever having what? Upward mobility on an equal playing field when it comes to commerce. As if some disease can be isolated strategically only where our people live. And you claim that the diseases are killing everybody, and there's billions of people there that are surviving and living fine without anything happening to them, but you'll make us believe that those are the disease countries. We're tired of you labeling us a disease. When it's your ideology, your eugenics, that's the disease. And now they're trying to pull us into a conflict that doesn't belong to us. I'm sorry, you Patreonies. I just had to go right here because we're tired of it already. We're tired of it already. And now I'm reading something, and I like to read the news. Not the United States news is a joke. Okay, I don't even read the news here. all the propaganda here. I like to see the news internationally to understand how the world is viewing America from an outside perspective. And guess what? I like to hear those politics and those political views more so, because everything I hear in America is propaganda. The Jewish Star, November 3rd. What are their concerns? Alignment, BDS, and Black Lives Matter poses growing threat to Jews in Israel and the diaspora. All of a sudden, our people is the threat they're claiming, as if we are a threat to them for existing, according to what I'm reading in some of these circulations, folks. And usually there is no open dialogue when it comes to these, I would say, when it comes to these views, when it comes to these assertions that our people are a threat. What makes us a threat according to the Jewish Star? Our people aren't harming Jewish people. Our people are suffering. And now they're using this organization that none of our people agree with. Okay? Black Lives Matter. Let me tell you personally, I hate the whole idea of it because it has nothing to do with me. It has nothing to do with me. There's no way that our people should be led by people such as those who came up with Black Lives Matter. They are against us ideally, they are against us traditionally, and they are against our traditional beliefs when it comes to the morality of God and what the institution of family. Okay? Personally, they can take Black Lives Matter and just chuck it somewhere because it doesn't represent who we are. But politically, they've put it out there to try to what? To try to attach us to it now, so that these radicals come with this stupidity. Automatically, our people are now between the crosshairs. So you see how they did this, folks? It started off with some stuff happening over in Europe, and now they're bringing it around to where now we're becoming the face of anti-Semitism based on what I'm seeing in these circulations, and I don't believe it's right. I believe a dialogue needs to be had and a distinction made that our people have nothing to do with Black Lives Matter. It's garbage. It has always been garbage. I've seen some white guys in a rural area holding signs talking about, I support Black Lives Matter. And I'm walking by, I'm like, man, take those signs down. Black Lives Matter. They sit there laughing. It's a political joke. Okay? And automatically it becomes a deflection. They're deflecting and redirecting people off of what we should be discussing. What of the children of Israel? The lost tribes of Israel? What of us? When are you going to make right with us? And this is why I'm going over this record today. White papers over in Patreon. The religion of Idumea and its relationship to early Judaism will be my discussion on Patreon today. And this is by Yigal Levin. So we're going to go into the Idumean foundation of early Judaism. So we can get the record straight here. Because when you research Idumea, during the time of Hyrcanus, folks, there was a conversion in the 2nd century where white people who were Edomites, Idumeans, converted into Judaism, and that's history. And under Herod, they rebuilt the temple, and at that point, instead of strictly black priests who were Levites and those of Judea, you had white people operating politically in the what? In the Sanhedrin and in the Pharisaical sect over our people, governing our people some 130 years later, by the time Christ would come on the scene, you had white people who are now politically and religiously in positions of power within Judea. See, I don't even want to talk about the causes because there's a lot of misdirection that goes into that, which were years later. This is the conversion we need to be talking about to set the record straight. And I welcome, like Hyrcanus, like our people during the Maccabees. Guess what? We converted white people into Judaism, okay, during the time of Hyrcanus. As long as they would put off their heathenism and their evil and follow Torah and live in the land, we had no problem with it. So again, that was a conversion 130 years before Christ came on the scene. And if that was good enough for our people then I'm going to say, well, listen, I have no problem with Europeans converting into whatever they would like to believe. But what we're not going to allow is the disrespect, not giving our people their due when it comes to being from the lost tribes of Israel. Okay? So we're going to talk about this. I'm going to read the whole thing. We're going to examine history and say, well, listen, it's time for some get right. 114 billion. 114 with a B. Was just given through the Biden administration to the state of Israel, leaning off of just paying the Ukraine all of this money. And now, right off Ukraine, $14 million is on the floor to be given for the conflict in Israel right now. Now, listen, this is their political ball right now. I understand that they have the right to do whatever they want to do with their money. This is their world. But what about the daughters of Zion? I'm not even speaking about myself right now. There's no more staunch supporters of the Democrat Party than our sisters. There's not a more dedicated voting bloc in the United States than our sisters, for whatever reason politically, supporting the Democratic Party. And even if you don't do anything for us, listen, we're men. We'll find our way. We'll find our way. We're men. The Most High got us. But you would have thought that they would have took some of that money and at least made sure our sisters were okay. And no garbage about debt relief, college debt relief, and all this other. If you got 140 billion you can pull out of your orifices from nowhere for a war that just came up, according to CNN, which that narrative is in question. 114 million after giving all this money to the Ukraine. We're men. But look at this, folks. Here's a report, which is a darn shame. As of August 14, 2023, the disproportionate burden of evictions on black women. Twice as many sisters are getting put out of their houses and evicted out of their homes in comparison to white women. I need y'all to see this. Our sisters support every group. Our sisters are behind, they want everyone to get it. They was there with the white women and made them a minority. They even say, okay, they're less lenient in judging the gay movement. Our sisters are there to support everyone, and they support their men too. That's not being publicized. Our sisters support everything, and at the end of the day, gets nothing. Daughters of Zion suffering. And I see what y'all done. I see what y'all done with y'all evil plan
of feminism. It was satanic because you worked on the men first. You gave our sisters housing, you gave them money, subsidies, when really, guess what? You knew that if you didn't give them that they would be more what? Loyal and stay amongst their men. But you slowly but surely gave them all the caveats, making them believe that that would be there for them until infinity. And no soon as men and women are fed up with one another, and men started figuring out what's going on and said, you know what? We're cool. We're going to just serve our God, stay quiet, and work in silence. No sooner as we backed away from things, then you begin to pull the rug right from up under our sisters with no hope. I'm going to take your housing now. I'm going to take your money now. And now our sisters are left out there with what? They're left out into the ocean with no life raft. This was their plan, folks. Because if you destroy either side of the children of Israel, man or woman, you destroy all of Israel. And the only thing we can do at this point is pray. Because we're the only people who has a gender war right now. We're the only people, and it's strategic because they understood once we came together like Betty Shabazz, Malcolm X, when we came together like Martin Luther King, Coretta Scott King, in spite of what they would call with infidelity and all that. Infidelity always existed, but we stayed together as a family. We stayed together. And they finally was able to break that bond. They finally was able to accomplish what the serpent did in the beginning with what? With dividing Adam and Eve. And sure, other races of people took full advantage, women, of feminism. Of course they did. But one thing about these other nations, they know how to utilize feminism without going too far. Throwing out their man is a no-no. They'll deal with the financial benefits of it, but they understand there is no national protection if they were to outright publicly denounce their men. So other people benefited from feminism, yes, but they did it to a point. They did it, there was a cutoff to how much they would actually get out of that particular ideology. Someone says, Yakara to hell. Elder, recall my daughter is a Douglas for her part-time job. I told her what a Douglas is, and she's, you mean not a Douglas, a doula. I told her what a doula is, and she said, well, it's no different than a midwife. My kids got to eat. Pray for me and her. Well, understand that a lot of our sisters who are doulas, they don't even understand the history of it. If you're going to be a midwife, be a midwife, but take the religious portion out of that. The religious part, it's straight witchcraft. Okay? So all we can do is pray. And do I agree with, our sisters going full board into feminism and all that? Well, no, I don't agree with it. But to some degree, I understand the Bible says give honor to the woman as the weaker vessel. I'm not going to excuse some of this behavior because a lot of them know what they're doing is wrong. But all in all, the Bible says give honor to them as a weaker vessel. They're easily led. They're easily swayed. They're easily swayed. I'm going to have that discussion because, hey, the reality is the fruit is sweet. Some just cannot resist taking a bite of the fruit. But here we are. Here we are. Now the same party that our people, our sisters in particular, have dedicated themselves to, have dropped them like a bad habit on purpose, intentionally. That's where we are. And you know what? At the end of the day, I believe long term, it's going to be rough right now, but long term, with the long term view, I believe it's a good thing. I believe it's a good thing. For once in a long time, for once since America's inception, it's going to take a humbled spirit before the Almighty, a contrite spirit that would take away the pride from men, from women, to say, you know what? I messed up. We got it wrong. Lord, forgive me. Accept me. Bring our family back together. It's what the world calls a necessary evil. I don't believe any evil is necessary. That's how they would call it. But I would call it a reckoning, a time of humility, a time to reflect and understand that, guess what? Nothing that's given in this world is for free. And I think that's what our sisters are going to realize. It was an exchange. What they gave our sisters was temporal enough to lure them away from their protection, their men, their family. Only long enough to move them so far that men would say, you know what? We good. And I'm checking out what they're doing now. They're opening up the borders now with all these other women who were raised to be traditional women under patriarchal lands and countries. They done swung the pendulum. First they went against the men. Now they're attacking the daughters of Zion. And now these women who were raised to be wives, living in a nuclear family all their lives, don't know any different. They're going to open up the borders. And these are the women that a lot of brothers are going to begin to cleave to. I'm not talking about people in the truth. I'm talking about in mass, in number. I see how it works. They did this in Jamaica. They did this in the UK. They've always done this with the East Indians and Asians. And the next thing you know, here it is. A mixed culture of Babylon that have destroyed now tradition and culture from whence our spirituality was founded. I see where this is going. But you know what? I believe the Most High is going to bring it around full circle. I believe it's a point where not only will the brothers, the sisters will repent, and they'll all come back together and say, you know what? We've forsaken the God of Israel. We apologize. We bit the fruit. For a short span of satisfaction, we've sacrificed the future of our legacy, our name as God's people. Lord, help us. Forgive us. And on top of helping us and forgive us, judge the enemy. Judge those who have socially engineered the men of Judah and the daughter of Zion apart. Judge them with a swift judgment. Judge them who have created diseases and all these others and have targeted our people with diseases. Judge them. Forgive us Ahiah, in the name of Yeshua, judge the evildoers. And guess what? When the Most High judge, that's right, folks, the people who are attacking our people cannot hide behind the wall of political correctness. Name calling only work down here. With that, brothers and sisters, stay strong. Stay strong. It won't be long. Stay strong. And you know what? Hey, folks, you know what I'm working on, right? I'll be working on a campaign slogan with that candidacy music behind me, with the violins going do 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 do. Yeah. I'm Elder Ricard, the Gathering of Christ Church, and yes, we need better jobs. We need this. We need that. And guess what? Guess what I'm going to show you the jobs are? Building our people with the music behind it. Right? And I'm going to talk in negative about all the politicians who've always destroyed our people. And at the end of it, it's going to be, vote Christ. Vote Christ. Because he's the only one. Our God, through Christ, is the only one who can actually deliver on a promise. And the promise is a promise of Abraham. Wait till y'all see this political campaign I'm going to put together. It's going to sound just like a real commercial. And at the end of it is, we're the children of Israel and we support this message. All right. Hold tight. Patreonies, I can only go on for about an hour, so come on over. We'll open up the calls for a minute. And then, a matter of fact, I can only go on for 30 minutes on Patreon today, so I'm going to read this article here on Patreon, open up the calls, and as soon as y'all come in, come on, Patreon.com/AGathering144. Let's talk about it. Bless you. And I can only go on for 30 minutes. I'm sorry. I mean, this update took up all my time. I'm sorry. But 30 minutes, call in Patreonies. I'll be waiting. Shalom.
The Arabs and Africans told us at gunpoint, together our wives and children then sold us. In the belly of these great ships we traveled in fear. By the rivers of Babylon we found our brothers here. Asher in Colombia, Reuben from Australia, Issachar, the Mexicans, from the gathering in Israel.